This is Actors Call Time. And now, here's your host, Carissa Mitchell.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of Actors Call Time with me, your host, Carissa Mitchell. I am a talent agent in 2 cities, in 2 markets in New Mexico and in Los Angeles. I live in New Mexico, love it here, started out in New Mexico and then opened up the branch in Los Angeles. I've been an agent for about 10 years. Love my job, love actors, love the whole entertainment industry. And hi, Jose Marquez from Las Vegas. So we've got the chat open up, so people are telling us where they're watching from tonight. I might say hi to people. But honestly, I wanted to do this show because I feel like there's so many questions that people have at so many different stages of the acting career. Are you trying to get started? Are you trying to get an agent? Are you trying to get co-stars? Are you trying to level up into guest stars or series regulars? I have actors in all of those categories, and so it's really like being a mom. It really is about tailoring your the actor's experience with every place that they're at. And so I just thought it would be fun to share some of my thoughts and my friends with you, that we can just talk about the actor's process, the casting process, what it's like. If you care about what it's like to be an agent, it's mostly a lot of being on the phone and on the internet and loving my actors. And first of all, I want to give a big shout out to the Box ABQ for hosting me tonight and figuring out how to do all this techno stuff to get us going here. I say that one of the things that that really sets good agents apart from other agents is how much passion they have. And I feel like what I do really comes from my heart, and it comes from really caring about my actors and really just collecting this incredible group of actors and surrounding myself with them, knowing them well enough so that I know how to submit them for projects that they're right for. And it is absolutely a dream job. I didn't know for all those years that I was being trained to be an agent when I was a graphic designer and a mother and a event coordinator and a counselor, all those kinds of things. There's lots of talking actors off of ledges. There's lots of trying to encourage them to keep going when they don't feel like they should go and they should quit. And we should talk about that. I've had lots and lots of big picture strategy phone calls over the last few months, especially with the pandemic. We haven't been able to get together in person. I haven't had an in-person meeting probably since last March. So it's been really hard, but I do want to talk about a lot of really cool things about what you should be doing. What should an actor be doing? How should you get started? And I did want to, we had a question already that I just wanted to kind of talk about. Jennifer from Santa Fe said, I was wondering if there's a better way to find out about applying for your agency instead of email. I have 2 kids I'd like to apply. So basically, this is a really great question. And I have to say that every agent has a different method for submitting for consideration for representation. And so you have to really follow each agent's requests, because one of the things about submitting to an agency is it's actually a test to see if you follow directions, because that's, 80% of it is reading long emails and following all the directions, especially now that we're doing almost everything from a self-tape from home. There's lots and lots of information. And so for me, I have a website, and it's mitchelltalent.com. I have lots of good information on there, but I also have a submission form on that website that takes you through all the things that you need in order to be submitted. And that is where I look for my submissions. And basically it's things like headshot, resume, letters of recommendation, IMDb page, IMDb links, And then really the most important one is sort of your goals and aspirations and where you're headed with it, so that I kind of know where you are. I do get a lot of calls for people that say that their baby is the most beautiful baby that everyone has ever seen at the mall, and how can my baby get into modeling and things like that. And I just have to tell you, this is not a modeling agency. I am a SAG franchised talent agency for theatrical and television, and I don't do modeling. And I also don't take babies unless the rest of the family or siblings or parents are in the on our roster. But also, I really don't take children until they're of reading age. That's about the right age for me to take children. And so, if you don't have a lot of experience, I suggest you do a few things before you start asking about being part of an agency. You can do background work. You can do independent projects. You can do, I just submitted, but I should have put all that information. We'll do it again, Mariana. There's a lot of information that we do need to have. So this is an incredible time to take classes. We're going to talk about that later. There's so much information that we want to get to today, but I'm watching the chat if you have questions. I do love seeing some of my people on here. We've got people from Chicago, we've got people from Silver City, from Los Angeles, from New Mexico. I'm so happy to see everybody. And so if you have a question, please ask it, and we'll get to some of your questions. The first thing I want to do is I want to introduce an incredible segment by our local New Mexico SAG After president. His name is Mark Comstock, and he and I chatted earlier today because we had a snowstorm, and so we had to chat earlier. And so I'd love to introduce you to Mark Comstock and show you what we had to say today earlier in our conversation.
Hi, Mark. It's so nice to see you. Thank you for joining me on this snowy day in New Mexico. So happy to see you, sort of in person these days. But Mark Comstock is the local New Mexico president of SAG After, and I wanted to talk to him today about all things pandemic and actor-wise and all of that. He's also an actor. And so, Mark, what can you tell us about, are things starting up? What do you know from the SAG After point of view about what's happening with the pandemic?
Yeah. First, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited
Absolutely.
to be here, and what a great way to spend a snowy afternoon. I almost said sunny. I think that's just wishful thinking.
Right.
So, as many of you know, auditions are slowly starting to kind of gear up and kind of come in. And about 2 weeks ago, I think the National SAG-AFTRA put out a notice about production kind of gearing up, not just in California, but across the board. Anyone who's worked in the pandemic, you know that there's COVID testing and there's zones and there's masking and all these requirements that kind of go into safety. But having said that, all the unions are at a point, and that's the DGA, the WG, SAG-AFTRA, the Teamsters, IATSE. We're all kind of on the same page where we feel good that the safety protocols are not only working, that if there's something, a hiccup, we can fix it and keep moving forward. So I think we're about to get really busy, probably maybe, March, April, gearing up. So the things that we need to do as the actors for that is a couple things. One, stay on top of your self-tape game, because that's not going anywhere. Keep up with your EcoCast skills. That's not going anywhere. Those are the things that we can control and we should be ready to do. The other part is we still have to do those things of social distancing and wearing our masks so that we stay healthy. Because the last thing you want is to book a gig and then find out that you've tested positive, and that just jumbles everything up. And
Yeah, I had one of those. I had one of those last week. She'd been booked since before the pandemic on a show, and finally went to her first COVID testing and tested positive and got unbooked. It was so sad. So sad.
Yeah. And it's so tough because we're all just chomping at the bit, and we're going to be busy. So just keep up the hard work. But the other thing we have to brace ourselves for is a possible slowdown or stoppage again, just because there's new strains on the vaccine and all those things that come into it, human nature. So mentally be ready for both. And our community, especially our profession, is really good at that. Not turning it off and turning it on, but amping up, pacing ourselves. And I think that's really important. So that if it shuts down again, we've been doing it for a while, we're good at it, but then realize that it did come back and it will continue to come back. So we have a lot more to be excited about. I mean, cases are down and vaccinations are up. That alone is good news.
Yeah, so good news. It is interesting. I have to keep spreadsheets of calendars and everything because somebody will be lucky enough to get booked on something. Here's the shoot date, and then all of a sudden it's like pushed 2 weeks. It's pulled up, it's pulled down. Things have the schedule. Like you said, we have to be ready for anything here in New Mexico because there are so many elements to scheduling something on a good day, and to have the pandemic on there as well. It's hurry up and wait, and then okay, now I have to go, and now we pushed it up a week or so. So it's been interesting to try to keep everybody's schedules. And okay, well, their shoot date is this day, but they have to self-quarantine for a certain number of days before that, and before that they have to get 2 tests and a fitting, and then self-quarantine, and anything can happen in there. You can go to Target, and everything
Right.
can change. So I just appreciate what you say, being so careful for your own health and safety and the safety of your family and your loved ones, but also so that you can get on set. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and we do that during cold and flu season too. We always say, like, I don't want to get sick. I mean, we are the tool of our instrument is us. So we have to keep that healthy as best we can. And you brought up a really good point there, and I was like, oh, Carissa, that's a great point. And now I totally lost my train of thought. So if it pops into me, I might just blurt something out.
Oh yes. Well, it's very interesting. I've been on lots of panels. I've met so many interesting people around the country during this pandemic because, I can be on a panel in New York very easily. I've met so many casting directors that are saying, I might just keep it this way. I might just do self tapes for a while as the first run, and then have, shut down my office, have the production pay for callbacks in the production office or something like that.
Right. Well,
And so it's sort of interesting, this whole self tape phenomenon. I don't think it's going to go away.
yeah, the white papers kind of implied that, like, for the foreseeable future, we won't have any in-office auditions, and self tapes are going to be the kind of the law of the land, and EcoCast and Zoom callbacks. Those are going to be the things. But what I do think we'll see too, as we get to a point where everything's kind of opening up a little bit more, is I think what'll happen is we're going to be doing self-tapes or EcoCast auditions, and I think callbacks will be the first thing that kind of comes back in some sort of modified in person. I think producers and creators want to, like, we want to get a sense of them. They want to get a sense of us.
Right.
And, when we get those opportunities to have a callback and you get to be in the room, it's so exciting because you're just talking and you're just seeing how well you connect and communicate. And those are all part of it. So I think there's just something about that in-person thing. And I know that, like most of us, I miss going into the rooms and giving everyone a high five and then just being like, break legs. Because, you and I have talked about this a lot, how our community in New Mexico is so supportive compared to other markets. We are really good. Like, well, if I don't get it, Doug better get it.
That's
right.
That's
right. And that's
like
what we
if
really
I don't get it, I hope somebody local gets it. Right.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. And we really are rooting for each other. And that's just so rare from bigger markets.
That's very
but
true.
Speaking of that, because we have our friends at NBC Universal and Netflix, and we have great tax incentives, and Netflix is blowing up their studio, making it ginormous, we're going to have more competition in town.
That's
and
right.
We also means we have to keep on top of our game, but I really want us to keep that New Mexico genuine kindness and warmth. Someone from LA may come and think that's LA or New York, this is how it was there. Grace and kindness because I really want to keep what makes New Mexico market unique to New Mexico and not let
Absolutely.
us lose sight of that. Because
Absolutely.
I think I've told you this story, Carissa. When I first moved here, I was signing out of a audition. I didn't have my phone on, and 4 actors were like, "It's 3:15," and I was like, "What? This
What? Why
never
are you being
happens in
nice to me?
LA." And I kid you not, Rob Toady was one of those people, and him and I have still remained really good friends. And it was just, and this community, once people introduced me, I was like, "This community is great," so I want to keep that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know for me, my phone is ringing off the hook 24/7 for people that all over the country that are hearing that New Mexico's blowing up and they want to work in this market. And it's so difficult to try to explain to people how hard it would be to work in a local market that you don't live in. And on as in addition to that, I think I've probably had 10 actors during the pandemic that have moved to New Mexico from other parts of the
Markets,
country,
yeah.
yeah, from other markets. And they're just like, I'm just gonna, it's cheaper to live here. It's beautiful. It's paradise. All of your auditions have been from, New Mexico, even if I rep them in Los Angeles
Right.
as well. And so it's been really interesting to watch actors experience New Mexico when they move here or when they get here. And so I'm excited about that. So here's a really weird question for you.
Okay.
And I've had this question a lot, and I think I know the answer, but I don't know the answer. But lots of actors are asking do I think that productions are going to start giving people vaccines? For some reason, this is a question that people are asking a lot.
No, that's a great question, and I've seen this in a few other chats, and I've talked to a few other actors on the national board of SAG After about that. So, a couple of things. One, film workers in most markets that have incentives are deemed essential workers. So that moves us up a little bit on the list in some of those things. Production right now pays for the COVID tests. Now, it has yet to be seen whether they pay for a vaccination, because one production, like let's say a production's in town and 30% of the cast and crew have the vaccination, but the other 70% don't, they're not going to change their COVID protocols. And they may not have that money or that time to coordinate vaccinations, especially since the rollout hasn't happened on like, you can't just go to Walgreens yet, right? So I think until there's large doses, maybe then what'll happen is a production will say, hey, we're going to have 200 people on this from start to finish. Can we get 200 first and second shots? And that might become part of pre-production. And just like having the vaccination isn't going to give you the edge one way or the other, because COVID protocols are still going to be in play. They may be like, oh, that's great, but you're still going to have to get a test even if you've been vaccinated. So I think maybe this time next year, if we're still kind of in some sort of limbo of both of those, or the vaccine is readily available, like the Johnson & Johnson, that's just one dose, I could see production paying for that. Or if we get to the point where we need a booster in a year, I could see maybe
could be
that
with different strains.
Yeah, exactly. So I could see that happening. But in the immediate, the states are controlling that, and that's the groupings that they have. And so while it would be nice, I think the only thing that we can be thankful for is that we're deemed essential. And so that kind of goes in the mix. And if you haven't signed up on the New Mexico Department of Health website, do it. Just
do it,
because you never
Absolutely.
know. Do it.
Yeah, I know I'm super low down on the essential list because I can work in my closet in my on my laptop still. So, but I'm grateful for New Mexico. We've got great numbers of people being vaccinated, so it's great.
Yeah, and our cases are really going down. So we just have to keep up the hard work on that part of it. So, and also too, I think it ties back into a little bit what you were talking about, actors from other markets and working here. I think the biggest advantage we have when production will gear up again is that because we have to be COVID tested, we are local. It's so much harder to coordinate that if you're like, well, I'm going to be coming from Denver or California or Texas or Arizona, that those things get a little more difficult because they can't be like, well, you got to come down 3 days before and then, all those things. But if we're in New Mexico, oh, I don't know if you heard my dog. Mr. UPS man just dropped something off.
Oh,
so,
how dare he?
Yeah, how dare he? So I think all those things are in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must tell, I don't know if you know from the casting director, local casting director and agent side, but a lot of the casting directors are like only submit people who are actually currently in New Mexico. Not even Denver. It's, it's like just submit our people that are here. So
That's good
that's
information to
kind of
have
an
because I think
interesting. And
everyone
yeah.
suspected but wasn't sure. So I'm glad you're
Right.
passing that on.
Right.
That's good.
And then in Los Angeles, since I work in Los Angeles as well, I would say 75 to 80% of the breakdowns in Los Angeles also say must be currently in Los Angeles. So,
Right.
so there's no fudging it. It's not like, oh yeah, they're local, wink, wink,
Yeah, they're local-ish, local adjacent.
yeah, it's just yeah, local adjacent. It's just something during the pandemic. We're just not willing to lie and fudge it.
No,
We have to
and
say
I mean,
they're
you probably
locally
remember
here.
this from when News of the World was shooting. Their schedule was so long and so fluid. They really didn't want actors from other markets just because it could be like, hey, we know you're supposed to shoot in November, and now it's September that you're shooting. Like that, there was
Right,
such a
right,
fluctuation on some of those. It was just so hard to juggle. Not to say those
right.
actors couldn't audition, but they were like, please start here because of that.
Right,
So
right, absolutely. We had I had an actor who booked a TV show here. She's local, she lives here. She was supposed to work, this was 3 weeks ago. She was supposed to work at the end of February. And so, we sort of assumed that, like a week before she'd start getting tested, go to the fitting, even 2 weeks before. A month out, they called and they said, you're shooting, we have to test you this afternoon, you're shooting Sunday. It was like 3 days or 5 days. And she had gone to Phoenix with her husband for a business trip. And all of a sudden she's in Phoenix, but she actually does live here. And she thought, 4 weeks out, she could go visit and then
right.
quarantine and be home. So she's like, I'm never leaving my house ever again, ever, ever.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
they moved her shoot up because of, positive testing, and they had to change the schedule around. And so, man, that was harrowing. But
yeah. So yeah, and that's the other reason too, is like booking out is just a little bit
yeah,
different on that sort of thing too. So,
right, right,
um, which is great. So again, just stay ready, right?
right.
And just go ahead.
Just be it. I just wanted to ask, I feel like a lot of actors have taken this time during the pandemic to do a lot of online classes and take classes that they wouldn't necessarily be able to take because they don't live in New York or they don't live in
Right.
LA or Chicago. Do you follow the SAG Foundation classes and
Yes.
those kinds of things for things that are readily available that we can do from home?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the person. A lot of the foundation stuff, you don't even have to be a SAG After member to participate. They do have their own YouTube channel, and so does SAG After. There's a lot of great videos on there. If you want a really long explanation of residuals, youtube.com. And I see we popped up the website, which sagafter.org/NM for New Mexico, because each local has their own page on the website.
That's right.
Make sure your email address with the union is current, because that's how you get updates on local events, because we're hoping to have a virtual membership meeting soon and all of those things. So you want to make sure that you have the right email address for those sorts of things. Make sure you download the app, because the app will give you things specific to your local. So something that's happening here won't pop up on the LA people and things like
That's
that.
true. That's
But
true.
staying connected is great. The state has a great website, nmfilm.com. Check it out. Just get to know your industry locally. And one thing that I've been doing, which I always try to do, is watch anything that's been shot in New Mexico since I've been here. So it's really great to see your friends work, or for me, I'm like, oh, they cast this person instead of me, and I see why, right? To see those things, or to
You're
be
like,
like,
oh, that's
well, it was me and
interesting. Yeah.
my friend got it, but they nailed it. Or I don't know some of these actors, and it's great to see their work. Now is the time, go back to the Longmires and the Breaking, and just know who in your market's doing what, and also support your friends. Watch their stuff. I mean, I'm so excited that News of the World is up for some SAG After awards, because that will probably get some screeners, so we'll be able to see our friends and things
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah,
So
I actually went ahead and rented it at home to watch, and it was probably the first movie that I've seen during the pandemic that made me miss going to the movies. It's such a wonderful movie. I'm so proud that we made it here. I have actors in it. But I miss going to the movie theater and seeing movies.
I do too.
So yeah.
And I miss our SAG After free movies at the Downtown Century 14 with our SAG After card. When things do open up, we do have, if you go to our local page, we have things that if you show your card, you get discounts. Like Marble Brewery gives us 50 cents off a pint, and free tickets at the New Century 14 downtown. You can get 2 tickets to any film. So I miss the days where you go see a film for free and then go get 50 cents off your pint, right? And talk about the film.
Very nice. And talk about it.
Use this time to take online classes is a great thing. And I think that's going to be a big benefit. Up your game, because everyone in every other market's doing the same thing. And
that's right. Absolutely. It's sort of shrinking our world and expanding it at the same time. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And I love it. So, and just, work on yourself, create your own content. This is the perfect time. On the sagaftra.org website, we have a new contract called the micro contract, which basically is anything, I think, under 50,000. But the great thing about it is you don't have to become a signatory of the union, so that it's just there's a record of it and it's on there. You're not breaking any rules that way. And if you just are like on a Friday, you write your short, you fill out the micro online, and then you shoot it on a Sunday, you're covered.
And you can use SAG actors.
Like after actors, yeah. Wow, so take advantage of that. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I did have one last question, and this is a general SAG question that actually popped up on Facebook the other day. And it's something that we talk about a lot, but a lot of people want to ask, like, what it takes to join SAG. What does it take to join SAG in New Mexico? There's a lot of misinformation out there about 30 days and how many vouchers and, all that kind of stuff. It's mixed up in the different markets. Can you give us a quick, like, how to join SAG?
Yeah, and this is a great question, because I'll get your point of view as an agent too, which I think that you have to be on the same page with your agent when it comes to this. So basically, your first one is your Taft-Hartley, which is your freebie. And the Taft-Hartley is like, hey, the union says you couldn't find one of our members for this role, and the production's like, nope, we want to give it to this person. So they pay the union a Taft-Hartley fee, and that's kind of one of your freebies. Now, here's the thing. You get one more where you don't have to join. Then after that, if you book a third one, you after that second gig, you become a must join, and you will get a letter. In New Mexico, the dues is dependent on the market that you live in. So I think Carissa said $3,200 in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And it's $1,005 here in New Mexico. So I always say, if you're booking non-union stuff, or you book that first one, set some aside to join, because nothing would be worse than to book your second and then a week later book your third and you can't work it because you haven't joined and you don't have the money.
And they do have a payment plan of sorts.
They have a payment plan. They give low interest loans. And just a side note, if you are a New Mexico actor and you book something in Los Angeles, you have to pay the difference of the two from the year that you joined. So I joined in 95 in Seattle. So if I worked in LA, the difference was it was a manageable number, but $2,000 is a big chunk of change. So just have those things ready. Stay current with your dues as much as possible during a pandemic, because we had this problem last year. People were like, I haven't worked in a while, and then they got a job and just couldn't quite catch up. Then they had to pay the dues. Yeah, but absolutely. So basically 2 freebies, join by the third. I tell people to wait until they get the must join letter. Carissa, what's your take on that?
My take is to do that as well, especially if you're doing a lot of commercials, non-union projects, doing a lot of indie projects, to wait and save your money until you're a must join.
And build your resume,
have that money ready. But there have been a couple of times over the years that I had that firefighter movie, the Brave.
Yeah.
One of my guys was booked, and he was non-union. It was his first job.
Wow.
And he was going to be working for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And the casting director said, have him work his first day and then have him join SAG, because then that changes the residuals. It changes, how he was going to work for those next 4 months.
Yeah.
And he went ahead and did that. But it's usually best to wait until they make you join, but make sure that you have your money ready to go for that date.
And check in with your representation on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a Taft, oh, there's a cat. Hello.
Hello.
So, so Taft-Hartley is something that you can't do yourself. It's not paperwork
Correct.
that you can file. What it is a production has decided to hire you over any other SAG member or SAG eligible member that they looked at and said, we want this person over everyone else. And so the production fills out that paperwork. It's nothing that you can do. And then you'll get a welcome your SAG eligible letter from the
Right.
union, but you can just hold on to that until they make you join. And then the
Yeah.
other question was about the 30-day window. Have you?
Yeah. Like you mean like if you book like a third job and you have that 30-day grace period?
Right.
Yeah. And there is, and I don't know that information as well.
Okay.
The membership department does, but my understanding of it, and again, this is like in parentheses, is that like if you book those jobs and then you're a must join, but you do have that 30-day grace period to kind of cover that gap. But if
Right.
you're working, that money should cover to join the union. So that's a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
The union is not to be punitive. The union is to make sure that you can work as best, to keep working and not say, oh, sorry, you didn't pay us, so you're out this money, because
Right.
we all
Right.
benefit.
Right. And to be protected as an actor. I've had lots of phone conversations with actors over the pandemic who are so desperate to work that, they might be SAG eligible actors. And they're like, this is a non-union project, but I'm going to go off into the woods near Las Vegas, New Mexico to shoot this thing. And I'm like, it's non-union. If there's anything that happens, they're like, well, I'll call you if there's problems. And I'm like, there's nothing that can be done if there's no protection for doing a project that's not signatory or
Right.
in this new one that you have. And so I always feel like SAG is there to protect the actor health, with their safety and, with their hours and pay and all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to say that you're going to be taken care of if it's not a SAG project.
Right, exactly. And as actors, that's our one responsibility. If someone says it's a contract, don't go to set to sign and see the contract. So I know we're
Absolutely.
wrapping up on time,
Yes.
and this was so much fun. You and I could probably go another hour easy
We could.
talking about our people here. But you got my SAG After email up there, which is fantastic. So if there's something that we touched on but didn't give you a good enough answer, or you have any questions, you can always email me. And if I don't know the answer, I will usually know someone that I can put you in contact with who can give you the answer, because I'm certainly not the end all. We have a great board of members here locally who also have a ton of information. So don't hesitate to reach out to us, because we love talking shop and business.
It's true. I don't know how many times I've texted you or called you and said, okay, I got a question, I got a problem. You guys have been always so responsive and helpful when, there's some kind of thing going on that I have to know
And your
about. So
kudos to
thank
you for being proactive. And if you're like, I don't know this, and asking, and because sometimes you'll ask a question like, I don't know, and then all of a sudden then we both know.
That's right. That's right.
So that's
Well,
the benefit of it.
I can't wait to have that $1 off pint with you at Marble at some point when this is all over.
Because
and
Doug's
we can
buying,
talk
right?
about, yeah, because he's a SAG actor. So absolutely. So thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you lending your email and your expertise and your knowledge and your inclusiveness in New Mexico. It really is a special market. I know because I work in other markets as well. And this is my home and I love it. And I know you live here too. And when are you going to get that little cutie up and running?
Yeah, she needs that 3.5-year-old. She's got some diva going. So soon, I think. Carissa, thank you so much for having me on this podcast, and also to all the work that you do for our community.
Thank you.
And being proactive during the pandemic, doing a podcast. So, yay.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think when we all get the free and clear, we're going to have to try and coordinate some massive industry party.
I know, definitely.
Where there'll be
definitely.
Lots of hugs and high fives.
So many hugs and kisses, I know. And we keep talking about, every holiday that we haven't celebrated, and everything that we should celebrate, people booking jobs and, things like that. Can't wait for those days. Can't wait.
Yeah, me either.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Mark. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. See you guys all on set.
Bye.
Okay, so we're in hour 6 of Actors Call Time at this point. That was really awesome. Mark and I are friends, and so we like to chat. Wow, that was a long interview. That was really fun. So thank you so much, Mark Comstock. He was so gracious to give us his email address, so you guys can email him. We'll probably have him on again because he's a wealth of information. The local board members of SAG After are so helpful for us. I did have another question here that I wanted to put up. It's a long one. Ryan says, how would one know if they have enough experience to submit to an agency? Will submitting too early in your career hurt your chances of being considered in the future? He says he has a lot of friends on my roster and they love being with, I love them too. So it's a tricky thing. And I also have to say that the local market has different standards than an LA market, for instance, or New York. So the New Mexico market is a wonderful place to get started. It's a great place to get your co-stars, to get independent films, and to get those one-liners and under fives that you need to build your resume. And so in New Mexico, it's we do look at people that have less experience than others. In LA, we really are looking for people that have some more experience. Most casting directors in LA won't even bring you in if you're not even SAG eligible. So that's important. But I have to say, because he did mention it, he has a lot of friends that are in the agency. If you know of somebody that is already represented in my agency, you can always have them give you a little referral. Those are great. I love referrals. I really, back before the pandemic, I would just meet people for coffee and just chat with them. And now I have to do it over Zoom and phone calls and FaceTime and things like that. But really what I'm looking for is I'm looking for people that have just as much passion and dedication and perseverance and, are working just as hard as I am. I work really hard and I want to believe in my people. I want to love and believe in my people enough to keep working that hard. It's never too early or too late to submit to the agency. And if you don't hear anything for a few months, and then something happens, you book something on your own or anything like that, you can always reapply if you haven't heard back from us. It's not going to be a problem if you don't hear from us and you reapply. So that is a question that came up through this. I'm just loving all the comments. Some people are just saying that this was great information. I do, again, appreciate that Mark was so gracious with us. Jennifer is saying this has been very informative. We're going to be doing this every other Tuesday night. So we'll be talking about the schedule a little bit later, but we'll be doing episode 2 in 2 weeks, and that will be fun. And right now, I have the pleasure of introducing one of my dearest, closest people in my life. She is running the LA office for me, and her name is Christi Webb, and she started out as the babysitter of my children, and those children are now in their mid-20s. That's how long we've known each other, and she comes from the casting world, and she is now part of the agency team here at Mitchell and Associates, and she's got some really cool stuff that she wants to tell us. Christi Webb.
Do double check the audition information in your email more than once. Things like due date and time, sides, slate requirements, shoot dates, things like that. Don't wait until the deadline to get your tape turned in, as there may be issues that need correcting, such as a missed scene, wrong slate, or bad audio.
Christi, Do's and don'ts. I love it so much. Christi is amazing. We're going to have to get her on the show sometime. She's kind of the bad cop to my good cop. She has such high standards, and I love her so much. And she takes such good care of everybody. So thank you, Christi. We're going to have more do's and don'ts on the next show. It's going to be great. And if you have other questions for her, you can ask us about those. I'm just going to pull this one up. Paris Jones, I don't even know you. Thank you so much for the good feedback on this. We really are just trying to be inclusive with everybody, give everybody the information that they need. And so thank you for that. So next up, I would really love for you guys to welcome a dear friend of mine and one of my actors, one of my top actors. And I have to say, when I first met him, I was really scared of him. He's been around for so many years in the New Mexico market. I took over this agency. He was signed to the agency when I took it over. So I inherited him. The first time I met him, I was so scared. And he's been nothing but wonderful and nice, and he's turned into a friend. And so I would love to introduce you to Vic Browder. He's going to join us live and talk to us about a few things. Vic, are you there?
Yeah. I'm here. I'm here. I'm not there. I'm here.
You're here. We're here. We're all here. We're here in weird places. We're here.
I know.
Right.
Howdy.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
You know, I was so scared of you when I first met you. But now I just know that you're just intense. You're just an intense person, and you care deeply about everything. And so I just wanted to kind of just ask you a few questions. We're in hour 8 now of our show. And so this is going to be great. I wanted to talk about you have so many hats. You're a coach, you're a director, you're an actor, you're a writer. You've done so many things. Tell us about your process at this point, and then we're going to show a little clip from some of your work. But give us a little bit about what your process is like.
Well, I consider myself a character, right? Everybody says know your type. Well, that is I'm a character actor. I'm of the firm belief that you give me a character, some dialogue, I'll make it happen. I'll make dynamic choices. I'll do whatever I can to bring that character to and bring a sense of truth to that character. So really, most of the time we don't have to get asked. We don't get asked to do much outside of our physical type, our physical appearance. But every once in a while we do. And so an actor who can step away from being themselves and really transform to somebody entirely, that brings me the most joy when I can see that. And when I do that, the piece, being able to step as far from myself as possible. So I deal with Vic for a few hours, you know what I mean?
Right.
I can be a little girl running around with, bow in my hair.
I've seen you do that on stage.
I know. And I had a blast. So it's just finding the truth is really my process. And that's, and the best describe it to any actor who knows anything about acting is adjusting your point of view. You have to see the character from not your eye, from and from truth, because it's different.
Right. Right.
So it's so finding the truth, my process, getting to the root of what makes that tick. It's a psychological game with myself, and that just and adjusting my point of view. And actually, it makes us more empathetic people, human beings, if we can do that. I wish more people could adjust their point of view and see things from another set of eyes and another style. And it makes us better people, I think, to be able to do that.
And I feel like what I hear from actors is when they start writing, they start directing, they start, you know, doing their own projects and things like that. They learn a lot about their acting process, like you're talking about the point of view. How do you feel? Every time I ask you a question in these panels and things like that, you always say something that I'm surprised. I think I'm leading you into my point of view on something, but I always try to tell actors to be comfortable in their own skin, to be okay with themselves, to have confidence in who they are. Like how much does that go into what you're talking about, point of view, and going into some other character?
So it's the homework, right? The homework, we get dialogue and we get a story to tell. The homework that we do is what people tick, right? What makes this person tick? The best can put in you know, the phrase "you're enough" that you hear from casting directors and other people, and is "you're enough." Well, yeah, you are, but you have to make the choices and commit to the choices. Yeah, acting is transforming. It is not just standing in front of a camera or on dialogue. That is not acting. And my not. And then, again, there's a lot of different philosophies. But in my book, as a coach, as a teacher, I try to get people to use self in themselves with choices that they make, so that they're dynamic choice, so that they're engaged, they're honest, they're truthful, they're not out of left field somewhere. So being comfortable in your own skin, to me, means being comfortable enough to make the choices and get to them.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you. I want to cut to one of your clips that is from a pretty big project, and we have some fun stories to tell about that. But let's show the clip from one of his projects.
Billy rocks. On my gun. Very good. Billy wins. What? You blind?
Why don't we do it for real? Come on, you scum-sucking runt of a man. Double or nothing.
We have a situation outside.
Billy rock.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Well,
that was
how
part
much
of my
fun.
whole reel.
Oh my God. How much fun.
I did have a blast on that. That was a
Oh my
blast.
goodness. And that was crazy. That was one of those crazy, we were talking about this earlier today. I was at the movies and my phone just kept buzzing and buzzing and buzzing in my pocket. I had actually taken like a couple of hours to go to a movie in the evening. And all of a sudden I'm like looking at my phone and I'm like, oh, it's Joanna, it's a casting director. And so I step outside and I take the phone call and it's Joanna and she's like, we've got this movie. I need Vic. Is he available tomorrow? We've got to have him on set tomorrow. Call him right now, find out if he's available. And it turned out to be this wonderful scene. And so we talked earlier today when we were sort of planning this about everything that kind of went up to that point where the casting director had pitched you to the director and said, this actor can handle this tomorrow. I know this actor. I've worked with this actor before. And so how was it for you to go on set after not having any preparation for this role?
Yeah. Well, it's so comforting and heartwarming to me to have Joe Edna and cast on our side. And they really want us to do the best jobs possible. And they're for us and they want us to do a great job and to be in her graces like that. It's really, really makes me very happy and proud. So we get a call from production, and it's Antoine Fuqua, director, and he wants to talk me through the scene that we're doing. And he goes, "Did you see the original Magnificent Seven?" I'm like, "Yeah, sorta, years ago." He goes, "Do you know the character Arcade Jones?" I'm like, "Vaguely." get it, YouTube it right now. I want, we're basically redoing that scene with these guys here. So I go and I look at it and I call them back. Okay, cool. But there's no dialogue. In the script, there's no dialogue. There wasn't any dialogue, and I'm not real sure what happened to the actor. That they may have not even asked it, or they had to let somebody go. I'm not positive. Nobody told me.
Yeah, we didn't.
No idea. But me, right? Whatever the reason, it worked out for me. And so he's like, I call him back and I say, Antoine, this is great. I would love to do this, but is it the same dialogue? We're not stealing the dialogue, are we? He goes, no, we'll figure it out tomorrow. I'm like, okay, okay. So go up and we get dressed and we're at, and we do the big wide, and we spend about 3 or 4 hours shooting the scene. And he goes, okay, now let's get together. And me and Antoine and Ethan and the guy who plays Billy Rock, Lee Bion, we all get together and we're like, all right, and we kind of just improv some stuff and make it happen, and everybody was happy, and we shot the scene, and it was great, and I had such a blast doing that, and working with those guys.
Stunts, right?
Yeah, did my own stunts. Working with those guys is fantastic. I try to do my own stunts if I can, if they let me, but I understand that stunt guys have to make a living too, right? I mean, they're there for a reason. So I'm gonna let them fall off the horses and do that kind of stuff. I'll take a gunshot and a knife to the chest. That's fine.
Oh my goodness, so great. Yeah. Well, that was an exciting time, and it couldn't have happened to a better person. And it just tells us how important it is to have those relationships with casting directors. For me as an agent, to know what what your limits are and what your abilities, or when I say limits, I mean your limits are way up here. So, it's
right,
very,
but knowing those is important. Yeah,
exactly.
Knowing what you can and can't do is very important. I mean, if you go, yeah, I can ride a motorcycle and I can do my own car stunts, and then you get on set and they hire you for that, and then guess what? You're going to be pissed.
Yeah, it's been hard. When you fill out like your Actors Access, and you say you can play the piano, I might call you and say, bring a keyboard and play the piano tomorrow.
Mary Little Lamb doesn't count, does it?
No. And then when or you can play the clarinet. Well, I played the clarinet in middle school. I can't play it. I don't even have a clarinet. Don't put that as a special skill if you can't do it tomorrow.
That's right.
So that's an important note to take. But it's great. But what do you feel like actors should be doing now? Things are quiet. We get self-tapes every once in a while. What do you think that actors should be doing for their craft right now?
I do a lot of self-study. I read a lot of plays. I read a lot of screenplays. I read scenes. I have the pleasure of working with actors right now on a private basis. So I get to coach them, which helps me as an actor. And just staying juicy in that way, being on your toes, taking a monologue, go to something you've never read before or even considered doing, like picking up a Eugene O'Neill play and going, wow, that character is fascinating. Let me memorize some of it. You know what I mean? And do that. There's a wealth of knowledge for actors in stage plays. So please read them. Watch as much stage plays as you can. There are some fantastic actors. And luckily enough, I've been one of those actors that can transition from the stage to the screen. And it is different in the sense that the scale is different, and the audience is different. But as far as creating character and choices, that doesn't change for me. The choices are not any different than if I was going to do it on stage as if I was doing it in front of a camera. So the theater has been a lifesaver for me in that way, because it gets me home again. You know what I mean? It gets me to that place of confidence of making choices that I can commit to.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. People are asking if you do classes, if you do coaching, private classes, and the answer is yes, you do. We can, if you have a place that they can contact you, we can put that in the notes.
New Mexico Actors Co-op. Just look me up. I'll be there.
Okay.
And you can schedule something, or we can have a conversation. You can email me. I'm not going to give my phone number out right now.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I just
But-
have to say that, working with you is probably not for the faint of heart. It's for people that are serious about their
True.
craft. They're not
True.
just going to be coddled. They're going to be told,
That's
I don't
the other
believe you.
thing, right? That's the other thing that actors can do is pick a piece of material, get a monologue, get a scene together with somebody, and then have somebody who's discerning enough to watch you and call you on your bullshit. Because coddling and going, hey, you were great, and blowing smoke up somebody's ass
Hercules.
doesn't benefit
Not helpful.
anybody.
No.
It does not benefit anybody, because then the actor goes through life going, well, my mom said I'm good. Well, your mother loves you. She's not going to tell you you suck.
Not going to say anything other than go for it.
No,
Yeah,
so find somebody that's going to be objective enough to call you out on, well, that didn't seem right, and be, of course, productive in their notes. And you don't want somebody to be mean and abusive to you.
No,
And
I
I've
think
heard
it's
horror
constructive.
stories about actors with coaches that are just abusive, and I know a couple of those people. I'm not going to say any names, but I know those people. And it is, being a bully as a teacher, as a coach, doesn't work at all. We just shut down. Actors just go, well, what do you know, you dick? You know what I mean? Sorry, my language. I have to language, please. So find somebody that's going to be productive and supporting, but not coddle you, right? In your work.
Absolutely.
It's super important.
I did want to say, if anyone has any questions, they can go ahead and put them in the chat for the end of it. But I did want to touch on one more thing with you, Vic.
Sure.
Because you've been, people come to me and they say, I want Vic Browder's career. And then I talk to you and Vic Browder says, I don't want my career. I want something bigger. And, I want to go to the next level. And so we've been working towards moving you from, the New Mexico one-liners and things like that into larger roles in New Mexico, and then working with you in LA. And it's an interesting phenomenon to move into a larger market. How are you feeling about that?
Well, it's humbling, actually, because there for a while, my percentages were pretty good on the stuff I'd auditioned for, 3 out of 10, which is pretty good, right? 3 out of 10 roles that you audition for, you book, those are pretty good. And then you get into the bigger pool and the bigger roles and the bigger markets, those percentages go down, right? So It's just being patient, and not getting on the ledge and having to call you and have you talk me off of it, So it's being patient, and I can't tell you how many times I've been like, oh, I should have went to med school. You know what I mean? I should have spent that time in medical school as opposed to in acting school. So but my education is so valuable. I'll never exchange it for anything. But it's staying positive and doing the work. And finding your own passion about it, and your own zen about it, and staying positive. So and I like to think of it as it's an escrow for me. It's just waiting for me to find it and unlock the thing to get it, and the universe to open up and make it happen. But it's not going to happen if I'm not in the room, if I'm not putting myself out there, if I'm not
right. Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely. Well, I couldn't think of a better person that I would want to be along the ride with. I'm so proud.
I so
and
appreciate
honored.
you. No,
Proud and honored to be a part of your team, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. But
I wouldn't be here without you, baby.
Thank you so much for believing in somebody who who never had been an agent and said, I'm the new agent. I think I can do this. And, you've stuck with me all these years, and I really appreciate it. And if you want a good coach, check out Vic Browder. He won't pander. might make you cry, but he won't be mean about it. How's that?
I'll be as honest and kind as I possibly can be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Let's see if we have any. Do we have any questions? Let's see in the chat. There's some questions, but we did give the website out.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Well, honestly,
Thanks,
Vic,
Bridget.
thank you so much. And yeah, Bridget's given us the woo. She's given us the hands up. But yeah, we are. Yeah, Bryce, do you do private
Yes.
lessons? He does, and he actually reads for them. Sometimes I hear, I've got self tapes, and I hear his voice as the reader, and somebody, and one of my other actors self tapes, and so that's really nice to have somebody to work on a scene with, and then be there in to read either over the phone or
Real time. Yeah.
Yeah, real time.
It
That's
helps.
great. So cool. Well, awesome. Well, thank you, Vic. I really appreciate you, and
Thank you.
hopefully we'll talk again. And we're going to move on. I just wanted to again give a I wanted to give a shout out to the Box ABQ for setting this up for me. You can check out this show every other Tuesday night. And we've got some other really great programming going on. I wanted to show you the schedule for what's happening. So there's a lot going on, and I must say that I'm in a lot of those shows. I'm in the karaoke show. I've got Carissa's Craft Corner on Sunday nights at the Sunday Night Special. It's so wonderful to work with your friends and people that you love, and I do appreciate everybody at the Box ABQ and Cardboard Playhouse. Check us out, all of our programming, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks. Thanks for watching, guys.